Ethical use of AI-generated assets. Is it possible? Here's how I'm handling it. Hi, I'm Kelly Paul, and today you're going to watch a long-form video going from this photo, which is 100% mine, to the following end product, which is this photo, which has maybe 40% AI-generated assets, one stock photo added, and of course added to my own. Photoshop recently added its AI generation, what's it called? Firefly? I'm not sure. I had played with it in the beta version of Photoshop. Sometimes it was a raging dumpster fire, but since it officially came out to Photoshop, I decided to go ahead and start using it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is use the lasso tool to select an area that I want to use the AI generative fill tool in. It's actually really easy, and if you're familiar with my work and you follow me on any channel, you know I have a problem calling it AI generated art. We'll call it AI generated assets because it's not art, and I'm going to ignore the controversy over stolen asset grabs from other artists. So I start here with, I think it's a fairly simple prompt. Maybe it's not. I've done my own test for different AI generators out there, and despite what the people making the AI say, how you have to have all this ability to create prompts, that sort of thing to get good results, I actually discovered that simpler prompts gave me better results. So I have to disagree with that. So this first run through, you can see I didn't really like the results. I already had an end image in mind of what I wanted, and it's going to take me a couple tries to get it to do what I want. Years ago, I dabbled in writing, so I can be fairly wordy when need to be, and that's probably bad in a way. I think, again, that's where my personal experience is less words in the prompt are better. I think as well, when I toyed with the AI tools before, I wasn't trying to blend it to one of my own images. I will give Photoshop credit that ultimately this is blending into my image reasonably well. Better than I thought it would, honestly, in some ways. And you can see I deleted that one right there. I just wasn't getting the look I wanted and decided to go smaller in this sense, to deal with one area of the image at a time, and kind of how I would do photo composites when I use stock photography created by actual human beings that is free for commercial use or paid, and I look for a bunch of individual items and blend them into my image. I will say that because this is already color matching and matching the exposure of my existing image, it is saving me time theoretically. But even here, this is not what I wanted. It's not the look I was going for. If you're just playing with AI assets to play with them and you're not super picky, you can get a very finished looking image very quickly. Though occasionally this thing put out some images, you'll see later, I can't wait for you to see it, that it's obviously done by a computer and done by AI. And a lot of these images, they look fairly nice. That middle one actually right there, I thought looked really, really nice, but it wasn't the image in my head. It still wasn't quite working the way I wanted it to. So you'll see here, because I kind of like that center one, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna shut that layer off and try again, and I didn't want to lose that. So I'm trying again. And this video is not sped up. This is real time because I wanted you to see how long it took me. Granted, the finished product is in no way what I would call a finished piece for me. I would take a lot more time making it look better. This was an exercise to see what I could do with it without trying all that hard. So again, I'm trying, and it does give you little tips there, which are okay. But sometimes it's also a little slow sometimes. But okay, we're getting better. We're getting closer to what I want it to do. But for some reason, it keeps wanting to do these weird arches and stuff. I'm not sure why, but you'll see again. Sometimes too, it's like I would go back to edit the prompt and I wasn't even sure what part I wanted to edit. Ended up deleting the entire thing. I think me using the word arch in this description was what it was struggling with. I don't know why. It's like I know what I meant. I think these tools, and they are tools, what they give you is not art, it is an asset, is meant to be used as part of a larger art piece. Okay, you see here, I don't know what the AI was thinking on that first one. Like totally had a breakdown on that first option. So I'm trying again. As I said, the things that AI generates are not art. They are assets, and they are based on, in a lot of cases, stolen assets from actual human beings who put their heart and soul into a photo, a painting, an illustration, whatever it happens to be. And you're probably thinking then, why are you doing this? Why not just not use it? And that was my original plan, to not use it, to continue doing photo composites, using assets created by human beings, but I'm being like out competed not in quality but in quantity. When you can spend an hour, and you'll see the finished product at the end of this, when you can spend an hour and create something like that, granted the photo was my own and it needed no editing really, but to spend an hour and put that out, someone on social media is simply going to drown me because of the quantity that they are putting out. Now you can see I deleted what I had before, decided to try the circle sort of ellipse shape. Maybe it would give the AI a hint of what I was going for. So we used the term stone well this time to try to get a different shape, since it was really stuck on making some sort of curved arch. Yes, I did use the word arch. That was my fault. Computers are stupid. They only do what you tell them to do, so. But yeah, if someone could just put a handful of words and get something that looks nice, then I'm just being drowned out on social media. It's like sometimes photo composites take me anywhere from 8 to 36 hours to work on. Depends on how many assets I'm adding, how well they go together, because you obviously can't find assets that match the color and exposure of your piece. So there's all of that, blending them all together, making them look like they belong there and that they really were there. So if I'm taking all that time to make a photo composite or a digital illustration, in the meantime, someone's using AI, not using anything of their own, writing a handful of words in a prompt and churning stuff out there by potentially the hundreds. And there's no way I could make a dent. So I'm trying to find an ethical way of dealing with this. You know, an ethical way of using it. One thing I have called for from the beginning is, if you don't have a problem with using AI generated assets, tag it that way on social media, wherever you are. Don't care. Make sure people know. that none of it was yours, and it was all generated through a prompt in AI. No one's expecting you to tell everyone what the prompt was. At least I don't expect you to do that. You're seeing my prompts here just because I'm trying to be transparent. And honestly, if someone ever said, what prompt did you use? As long as I kept it recorded, I'd let you know. It doesn't matter to me. Frequently, these prompts are fairly short. Now, this one's getting longer. And you can see I finally settled. I like this one arch it did with a little waterfall. So I kept that. And this is the one thing I will go again. Blended very nicely with my existing photo. I'm very happy with that. And then I started the next part that I wanted to add. And the only thing here, I don't know why I didn't say anything to the AI about a whitewater stream and all blurry. And I kept saying slow moving stream. Obviously the computer just doesn't know the difference between a slow or a fast moving stream. So it's giving me this whitewater sort of stream. And I really fought with this thing to get it to do what I wanted it to do here. And again, a lot of this, if I wasn't being particularly picky, they are perfectly fine assets for the image here. Some of them don't look very realistic. I mean, that's pretty. And this is, again, someone could go on any sort of AI computer and just create this. And honestly, I'm a photographer, so I know that's not a real photo. But I think most people who just like to see pretty images would look at that and be like, oh my gosh, that's a gorgeous photo you took. But I, again, had a particular idea in mind, and I'm just trying to get the AI generative fill to do what on earth I want it to do. It was kind of frustrating to a certain extent. And again, I've noticed the less wordy you are, the better quality. I think that the AI struggles with a lot of words. Now, before you say anything, I've tried Stable Diffusion. I've tried a couple of the other AI generative tools, which are further along than what Adobe's tool is right now. Of course, they started much earlier, so I'm sure this will get to that point eventually. So we're trying again with this. It still did not give me something. It was giving me just stuff a little too out there for what I wanted. I just wanted this calm, still looking pool, kind of like a small pond in the front. That's all I wanted. So this time I'm typing in a different, I start and I try again, flowing stream. And now this is when the AI kind of loses its mind a little bit. I decided to put a salmon jumping out of the water, and maybe I'll explain that when I post this. It doesn't matter. I know there wouldn't be a salmon in a stream like this, but I was basing this off of some mythology, so just go with it. But I think the AI just lost its mind for this one. It's like we get this salmon colored water instead of a salmon in the water or a salmon jumping out of the water. It looked like some sort of like horror film, like someone killed a bunch of salmon in the water. It was totally crazy, but it gets better. Just wait. It definitely gets better. Now, again, a lot of these different assets that have been generated, I'm not saying they're bad. The only thing that really impresses me about this is how well it's blending the colors and exposure of my own image. That honestly is the one thing that really surprised me, that it was able to do that. Because when you do photo compositing, again, that's what takes me the longest amount of time. Usually it's not even finding the appropriate asset, it's getting it to blend in a harmonizing way with my existing image, which is usually one of my own. I tend to use my own photography. So we're trying again. So a still pool with a salmon fish jumping out of it. Okay, so we're trying again to get the AI to understand what I mean. And it took a while for it to generate this. Rightfully so. I don't know what is going on here. Now this looks like dead fish just falling. This is something out of a nightmare. It looks like, I don't know what that looks like. They don't look like salmon. Again, they're like some sort of salmon colored fish, I guess. I'm not sure. But at that point, you can really see the limitations of it right now. And as I said, there are other AI tools out there that might not struggle with this so much because they've been around longer. And they also had a bigger asset grab before things were slowed down. So I decided to go to try. Oh, I tried one more time with fish swimming in it. So I'd forgotten I tried again. So at first when I started this, I was like, oh, okay, this is going well. And then, okay, this has no fish. I don't know what it was thinking. It's like sometimes the AI just completely ignores some of the things. I don't know what nightmare this came from. What are those little like plastic packets or something in it, or tags or something? It was totally crazy. totally crazy. So I remember at the time just rubbing my head going, I don't even understand. And again, I can tell you from experience, if you were generating an entire image and not matching it to something, or you weren't very picky, you would get something different. Now you see right there, that prompt was really small. Was that 5 or 6 words? That last prompt that I used, so that was much smaller of a prompt than I had ever used. Okay. And now I'm starting to get stuff that is much closer to what I'm looking for. And I just hit generate again because I realized the prompt was on the right path as far as what I wanted. It was close, but it wasn't quite there. And that was like 5 or 6 words long. So again, I think it's absolute garbage when they say, oh, it's very complicated to write prompts. It's very difficult. No, it's not. Okay. So again, we're getting good here, but it's for some reason, I don't know why it's putting in waterfalls when I say water flowing into a still pool. So I'm trying again. Slow flowing spring water with, and I say flowing, I'm trying again. It's like, wait, I said flowing already. Moving. I'm just trying to get it to do a small little waterfall, not these big blurry things, because that's not what I'm going for. So we're getting close again. But then some of them, that one looks like, some of these look very fake. Now this one, finally. I'm just going to move the little AI generation tool out of the way, because this right here is exactly what I was thinking about. I don't know how many goes of that I took to get there. And I am not sure how Photoshop's ultimately going to price these using this. I mean, if they price it for like credits based and how many times you're going to generate something, then they have no motivation to make it more accurate, do they? But okay, we'll just set that aside. Now what I'm going to do here, this is some photo compositing skills here. I'm going to work on the mask for the pond in the front first. I'm going to fade out some of the AI generated asset to blend it better with my own image. This is something, if you just start by generating AI pieces, I'm not calling them art, okay, you won't know how to do this. Okay, so if you have an existing photo and you're trying to add pieces to it, this is something that people who do digital art and photo compositing understand. I'm just slightly erasing some of the AI asset part in this case the front one, and you can see I'm turning it on and off so that I can see what's underneath it, so that I know what I want to take away, because I want some of this rock that's in my actual image to be right next to the small pond. Also too, this is what makes it look like it belongs in the scene. And that is also why when I use the lasso tool or the ellipse tool or whatever, I made it larger than I needed, because I didn't know what asset it was going to generate, what size it was going to be, what shape it was going to be. And so by doing this, I'm placing the generated part into my image so it'll look much more normal and natural. I'm even taking away some of its own whatever that is in the pond, a stick, or I have no idea. But I wanted to make it look like the edge of the pond was probably right below you if you were standing there and taking a picture. So that's what I was doing there. The other thing that surprised me, if you look at the reflections in the pond, it actually did really well putting the reflection of my trees in my image into the pond. That surprised me, because normally that is something that would take me quite a bit to recreate in the pond water. And that's why some of them take upwards of 36 hours to complete a photo composite. So you see here, I'm just looking and taking away some of the other areas, and I'm like, okay, I don't need this little wispy bit here. You know, now that I've got my general shape, I'm just cleaning up the edges, you know, just to get a particular, so you can see how much I took away, and it helps to place it in there. And this is normal photo composite work. I do this all the time when I'm adding other photos together. So yeah, there you can see that. So now I'm going to work on the spring with the moss covered stony arch in the back. It blended it quite well, as you can see, to my image, but I just wanted to only keep the parts I actually needed. So I'm just gonna, you can see how I'm taking away quite a bit there just to keep, and I want it behind that log, that fallen log back there. So that of course gives it a sense of depth. And that's probably what made it look a little weird at first. So now I'm actually gonna just continue to put some of the, it did actually really well match some of the soil in the front. I was actually surprised with that too, but I still took some of that away because I rather have my own image in there. Now this up here, it did really well matching those trees, but you can see when I take them away, it kind of misinterpreted where some of the trees were and how close they were. So yeah, I'm just decided, hey, I'm taking all this out. It's not needed. I just leave the slightest little color cast from it on there, just to, again, it also to remember things further away are blurrier, and I wanted to match that as well, so that's why I didn't take all of that away. So yeah, the pieces that gave me the best results were actually fairly small prompts, you know, and as you go through there you can see. So, you know, right there, it is fairly good. Like I said, I would, if I was going to make this a piece that I was going to put out there as a finished piece, I would spend a lot more time with this, a lot more time. Because at this point, yeah, half an hour. I'd been working on this about a half an hour. I did cut some of this video out, which was me just, I had to step away and do things. So I did spend a bit more time, but essentially about a half hour, 45 minutes was probably used on this already. So it's pretty crazy to think that this could be created in that short of a time. And this is why I have no choice but to start using this tool out there, simply because other people not being very ethical or honest are out there creating entirely generated AI pieces, calling it art, not telling people that it's generated with AI. People think they took the photo or drew the image or whatever. And it's not the same as, now, people who draw on paper, okay, because I used to do this. God bless them. You know, that's a skill I had. I just don't do it anymore because I like doing things on digital. It's easier for me to fix mistakes, that sort of thing. But I have a graphics tablet, so I'm drawing on a tablet. I've heard comparisons of, well, you know, the AI tools are just like a digital tablet instead of paper. No, it's not. For one, these AI tools took art from artists without their permission, without paying for it. And that's nothing like when an artist sits in a museum and hand draws a piece based on a master artist's work. That is completely different. And you'll never convince me otherwise, honestly. So again, at this point, I don't know that as artists we have much of a choice other than to start using this. We're going to be outcompeted by other people with possibly less abilities, just putting out so much stuff. And unless you're in the field, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. You won't. Now this here, what I'm doing, I'm feathering the edges of the masks, again, just to blend better with my actual image, because that is what I want to match. It's my work that I'm trying to get it to look like my work, not someone else's. And again, I had a particular image in my head, and that's what we're going for. So I feathered the edges just to smooth things out. You'll see me saving a lot on Photoshop. Anyone else out there who uses Photoshop and having problems with it, I don't know, the last 6 months of it sometimes just crashing and burning for no apparent reason. I've never been doing the same thing twice and it'll just freeze up and crash. So I get in the habit of every time I do something kind of big, I automatically save. I've learned, I turned off the other layers. It just seemed to keep it from getting too confused. And again, I think if I was doing this as a finished piece, I would have spent a lot more time with it. And yeah, it really messed up on the fish. I don't know what its issue was with fish. I know it has trouble with people, but it really struggled with fish. And all I wanted was something salmon looking like, just like close to. It's like I'm down to just the word salmon. Again, you get better results with less words. So I decided to use that one. And again, this is proof against what the people who built the AI said is like, oh, you need to be able to write these complex prompts to get good results. Again, I've just played with it probably a grand total of a couple of hours here and there. And the more complex my prompts get, the crazier results I get that don't seem to be anything of what I'm asking. It honestly seems to get confused. So this is a salmon looking fish. It's close enough. It doesn't really matter because it's about to be under the water. So again, because it struggled before with putting a salmon in the water when I was trying to generate the pond, I decided to fall back on some photo composite skills. And I'm playing with the different filters there just to get it the way I want it to look. What I'm going to do here is just erase some of the stuff around the edge. I don't need it. I just need the fish. Again, photo composite. I'm going to just be erasing this completely, like the little bit of water it has around the fish. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's even a salmon. Maybe. It didn't give it an upper fin either, so go figure. But that's okay right now, because for this exercise, it's just not that important. Yeah, I have to wonder, honestly, if the different AI tools charge you by how many times you hit that generate button, then they have absolutely no reason to make their models more accurate. Just a thought. So now we're going to stick this fish underwater. Again, this is just some basic photo compositing skills. So yeah, just fading them out a little bit. And I have the one filter on the layer so it looks pretty good to me. It's good enough for this. As I said, I would make something a lot more carefully. But for that, it's good. Saving again in Photoshop just because it's Photoshop. I'm almost expecting to see a lot of crashes now that this is on here. Okay, now this, for some reason, the AI generation tool had real problems generating a hazelnut tree. It was terrifying, honestly. It took like images of hazelnuts and stacked them in a tree shape. It was so weird. I actually had typed the prompt saying, hazelnut tree with hazelnuts on the branches. That's all I typed, and I got stacks of hazelnuts in a tree shape. So I don't know, but I went back to just grabbing an actual made by a person stock photo. So this is what I normally do. Taking an image from a stock photography site made by a human being. And again, in this case, I am not going to make this as precise as I normally make my photo composites. If you follow my channel, you've seen this. My work is usually very clean and very precise. But for this was just an exercise to see how this would work. So this is normally, you can see now why this takes so long, and I was not being careful here. So normally I'm a lot more careful. It's a lot more time consuming. I just wanted to get enough done to have like a comparison to show you, to give you an idea of how long photo compositing takes. And anyone who does photo composite work will tell you it can take hours. Usually, and I've uploaded some of my speed art, I've had to speed up the videos because it's like a 2 or 3 hour video. I cut big sections of it out, and then I, run it at like 10 times the speed it happened just to get it down to maybe 15 minutes. So I'm going to place this hazelnut tree into this image. And again, normally this would be something that I would take a lot more time on, but this will give you the general idea. I made my background white just so it was easier to see what I needed to remove from this photo. Originally, I was going to leave more of it on there, but since it's going to be partially behind some trees, and I'm taking away some of these pieces. Again, this would be something I would normally take a lot more time on, be a lot more careful on. I would make that brush tip a lot smaller so that I could carefully remove. And again, this is not sped up. I actually move this fast. That's scary. I don't watch these videos back usually like this in real time. Usually I'm speeding them up and making speed art. But yeah, I'm usually reasonably this fast. If I had a smaller brush tip, this would be taking a lot longer just because you can't go this fast. Since I didn't need to be this careful on this, I was just... So essentially, putting this hemlock tree into this piece from a stock photo source took the same amount of time that it did for me to use the AI tools. And you'll see at the end that even though I got it to blend reasonably well, it's probably not blended as well as it could be. So again, this is where I can't compete with people who are using AI completely, because doing photo composite work is very time consuming. Hopefully this gives you an idea. But this, now we're going to flip everything back on. And I still have to get this a little better matched to my own photo. Honestly, sometimes the hardest thing is to get colors when they're kind of a yellow green, to get them to more of that blue green. So I've probably got about 10 minutes, 12 minutes left on this piece. So here's the thing. I don't think as artists, I mean, if you draw on pencil and paper, you're essentially marketing your pieces to a different demographic that wants a physical copy of something. I don't know that you'll be that affected by AI art unless people start printing it. I don't know if that's happening, since that's not where I work in. I don't know. You can let me know in the comments if you're concerned. So you can see here I took the hemlock tree and I've got the color matched, took some of the yellow out and made it more blue so it matches with the existing photo that I have there. That is the sort of thing that probably the AI did fairly well, as I said, in matching to my own image. It did save me time, okay? I will say that. I will give it that. My issue isn't saving time. My issue is people creating whole images off of just a blank canvas, and none of it is their own. Ultimately, by the time I was done, I would say 60% of the finished piece was my own photograph with no filters, no editing on it. Figure 10%, I'll say 10% was this stock image. What's that leave? 30% was the AI generated assets? Yeah, we'll figure 10% each, give or take. So I will start using it. I'm going to have to. I have no choice because I need to be able to put pieces out faster. But I have every intention of doing what you're seeing me do right here. I will be making more videos like this in the future because I think some transparency needs to be happening as far as the use of AI generated assets goes. Okay? Now for me, like I said, this wasn't really a finished piece, but do I consider this piece art? Well, I do, because I had a vision in mind, a end point in mind. Now I'm just erasing the bottom sticks because this tree is supposed to be behind that log. Basic photo composite work. So there you got to see use of AI generated assets right next to human generated assets in the form of stock photography. Now I'm just cleaning this up again. But I don't like, I guess what I don't like about having to use the AI generated pieces is one, that I have to, because I'm again just being out quantitied out there, you know, in the world. I don't know that most people can tell the difference between a photo composite that took 36 hours or an AI generated piece that took 4. I can tell, but even now, I can tell you that some of the really newest stuff, it's getting hard to tell. Honestly, the only way you can really tell is it almost looks too perfect. You know, it's like too perfect. Perfectly composed, perfect color, perfect everything, perfect light, perfect shadow. Any artist will tell you when they make a piece, you know, they look at it a week later and they see things they can improve. I would love to know, are there any AI artists out there who solely generate things completely from nothing? Or a week later, do you look at it and go, I could have done that better? I don't know. I would love to know. I don't know how many people using the AI generators do they consider them. I've heard the term prompt engineer. I don't know if that's what the people using it actually accept as a title. I don't know. Mostly I see people in social media, what I see most often is people going, look what I made or created, and some people even say drew, and then someone's like, hey, there's a AI watermark in the corner, you didn't draw anything. So now I'm just starting to condense some layers and rasterize them. What I like to do is merge all my layers, and you're going to see I'm going to edit undo. I had to duplicate and then merge. I like to keep a file with my layers split out in case I want to go back and change something. So now I'm just going to work from the merged piece, and the rest of this is all ever since I brought the hazelnut tree in. This is all basic photo composite work now, because now I want to pull up some filters that I like to use. Boris FX Optics is one of my favorite. I love the filters on here. There are sort of some go-to filters I like to use. And the nice thing too, there are so many sliders, so many things you can change. I've honestly spent hours just tweaking the different filters. But I have a handful in here. And normally I wouldn't just pick the filter at its default and go. That is not my normal habit. I usually pick a filter, and you see all the values and sliders on the right. I usually then go through those and tweak it further to get the look I want. It's actually extremely rare that what you're going to see me do ultimately here is just pick something because again, I had no intention of making this a completely finished piece. This was just sort of a practice run. Let's see what happens if I do this and how quickly I can make it. I probably shouldn't have told everyone that this wasn't a finished piece and just seen the reaction, but again, I really do believe in honesty and transparency. So you'll see me post and tag mostly my photography. You'll see me tag it as no AI, and I'm doing that for a reason, just because a lot of people out there using AI aren't tagging it as AI, so you have no way of knowing. So I have to then tell you that it's not being used, and when I do use it, I will then tag it as AI assets used. And I'm still trying to debate how to do that. Should I say how many assets were used? 2, 3, 1? You know, I don't know. Or maybe I'll just say, you know, AI assets used in this finished product. I don't know. I'm still trying to debate what to do on there. But either way, I will find a way to be as honest as possible. So yeah, we're going through. I'm just getting rid of some files I have open. I don't like leaving them open. Another one of those reasons again that Photoshop likes to crash. Now what I'm doing here is blurring some of these layers in the back, because again, any photographer will tell you the further away something is, generally the blurrier it is, or at least that's how the human eye generally work. So I'm going through and just blurring some of these pieces just a little bit. Yeah, I did that one more time because I realized I had forgotten to blur the hazelnut tree. It was entirely too sharp. That's probably another thing I've noticed when I see AI generated pieces that are solely AI generated. They're so crisp and so sharp. And that's where, again, it's that unrealness. So here, one of my go-tos is the Camera Raw filter because it's all these wonderful sliders. I always put on the auto just to see what it does. I have never actually liked the auto suggestions, so I end up tweaking all these sliders myself. Again, basic photo composite work, pretty typical for anyone who does photography editing or photo composite work. And if when you're all done, you want to get everything looking the way you want. I have to admit, dehaze is probably one of my favorite filters to use. And I've actually started to learn that pulling down the clarity is like one of the best things you can do. Just a touch. You can see that's on like -2 or something like that. Just to take some of that sharpness out of there. It also gives it a beautiful, and you can see that. Look how beautiful. Got that nice magical dark deep in the forest quality. So one more time, I clicked off the layer by accident. Going back into Boris FX, I had one other idea, one other filter I could use. Yeah, I've been known to spend hours fiddling with these filters in here. I love fog, mist, and silk are some of my favorite filters. And normally, like I said, I would fiddle with those sliders to get it perfect. But in this case, I was just trying to get the piece done as quickly as I could because I knew I was screen recording. I didn't want this video to be hours and hours long. No one wants to watch that for hours and hours long. Oh my gosh. I've had this software for so long, and every time I end up just sort of browsing through it, you think by now I would know where everything was. Once I get everything figured out, they'll probably move everything. So I think, and that Boris FX is pretty, like, takes a bit to render. But yeah, so I'm going back into Camera Raw. Realized there's one other little thing I wanted to add. It's like vignettes are your friend. Always good for that magical sort of look. So there you go. Now the one thing I will say, when I went to export this, you can see that AI content credential will be applied to this image because it was made with generative AI. Now, I always put copyright and contact info, and I assume people can't turn that option off. I don't know. But I like the fact that Photoshop is tagging it for you, whether you ask or not. Because again, the only way I can see through this is that we really, okay, so here's the finished piece. We really, as artists, if you use this, that's fine. If you have no problem with it, that's fine. Tag it. Be honest and transparent about how you created what you did. Have a wonderful creative day, everyone. Well, if you've made it this far, you've stumbled upon some bonus content. I've decided that after that video, I wanted to create a completely AI generated image. The red text you see in front of you is the prompt that I used. Well, the first go around I didn't have the word photo. I had just a dark magical forest. Sorry for some of the typos there as I copied it over, but essentially I told it a photo of a dark magical forest with a spring surrounded by moss-covered stones. There are fish swimming in the pond near the viewer and hazelnut trees around the water's edge. I decided I wanted to do this just to show what you could create with this with similar, if not the exact same prompts I used all through the video you just watched, but weren't using some of your own content if maybe you weren't that picky. And this is again why it's going to be very hard for creators to compete with this. Now, this first go around, as I said, I didn't have the word photo. So it's more like an illustration, which isn't good for illustrators. This looks better than a lot of illustrators' work that I've seen out there. And so I go back in because I wanted something to compare with what you just watched. I wanted a photo composite piece or something that looked like a photo composite piece. It's not a photo composite, obviously. So I put the word photo in, and all the other words were the same, and generate. And this is an example. This was a whole 3 minutes of work. Other than it taking a little bit longer to generate, this is what I got. Now, is this matching what I had in mind? No, not really. But my point is, if someone isn't picky, this is perfectly fine. How am I supposed to compete with that when good quality photo composites take days to sometimes produce? So please, if you're going to use AI generated assets, please tag it that way so people understand. It didn't take me hours of work to write that prompt. It took 3 minutes to do this entire piece. This is not sped up. This is not slowed down in any way, okay? And it's absolutely mind-boggling. All right, tag your AI work, please.